Hello and welcome to the Film Island podcast. Today we spotlight the Dublin International Comedy Film Festival, which takes place from the 27th to the 30th of November. First off, Gemma Creagh talks to festival director Mo O'Connell and co-director Cathal Feeney about what we have to look forward to, followed by Mo talking to Tara Norris, whose comedy short Proposing to Ciara screens at the festival.
So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh no, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
God, it's an exciting festival. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger every single year. Can you talk to me about what you guys do to get ready for the festival?
Oh my gosh. It's basically just an avalanche of work. So I suppose, the first thing is the films, comes down to the films and the sketches that are sent in to us by the brilliant filmmakers from all over the world and Ireland. And so we try to choose the ones that make us laugh the most, I suppose. If you disagree, Carl, if you can.
No, of course, yeah. I'm always a great laugh.
Yeah. And so and then it's just about kind of whittling it down, and there's there's always a few kind of, I would say, kind of star runners kind of in there, which we're very lucky to have a lot of those this year. So people have really upped their game with regards to making comedy, not just in Ireland, but abroad as well. So we're just really impressed with everyone. We're just like, wow. People are pretty incredible with what they come out with, especially with very low budgets. I think that's what we're most impressed about this year. Is like people with no money are making incredibly well produced material. It's not only really funny, because often people think comedy is best when it looks kind of cheap, but it's not necessarily true. I mean, there's films that have been made for less than $5,000 which are stunning looking and also incredibly funny. So yeah, we're really impressed with that. And then it's about trying to get a marketing strategy up and going. And this year we have a stand-up competition as well, because we always kind of sewed comedians into the schedule. So we'd show a funny film, and then we'd have a stand-up comedian do a set, or we do some like improv, or that type of thing. So we decided to do a stand-up competition throughout the years, and so the final will take place with 5 comedians now in the film festival, and there will be an audience vote as well. But Joe Rooney will be our main judge for that. And the winning comedian will be flown to the United States, to New Jersey, where our sister festival is, the Irish American Film Festival, out in Count Basie Theatre. It's a very famous theatre in New Jersey, and they'll do a set there. And we'll also fly a filmmaker out there as well. So there'll be 2 people going out there in March 2025.
That is so exciting. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're trying to build momentum towards the film festival for that, because we have a couple of new venues. We've the Complex, which will hold a lot more people than the Generator did. So that's what we're thinking of, ways of trying to fill it. So that's what we were thinking about, having a stand-up competition that would lead to the festival and bring more people with them, basically.
And how many submissions did you get this year?
It was over 300 this year, which is twice as many as last year. So it's gone from strength to strength.
That's amazing. And what are your highlights in terms of films?
Well, so we have 2 brilliant American international feature films. One called Counting In, and another called If That Mockingbird Don't Sing. If That Mockingbird Don't Sing is by a 20-year-old called Sadie Bones, and it's incredible. It's just literally incredible. We just can't believe they made it. Like it's very like Juno, slightly different in that this teenage girl, she decides to keep her baby, but and it's about that decision, I suppose, and the fallout from that decision. But it's very, very funny, and it's really well made, really well produced. Again, they didn't have much money, and she's just incredibly impressive, Sadie Bones. Amazing young woman. And so I'll let Carl talk about Counting In.
Well, Counting In is a mockumentary. It's I suppose it taps into the whole Spinal Tap look and feel, where it's very, very funny, very well made, And it came from a short, seemingly, that had done very well in festivals, and they decided, okay, that we have something here, so we'll develop it, and it is. It's actually hilarious.
And tell me about your shorts program, because I love comedy shorts.
Well, yeah, we've really strong program this year. So we have, I suppose, we're going to have to talk about some of our own personal highlights, maybe. So Baby Steps by Hannah Mamalis is incredible.
Brilliant.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And again, she'd only €5,000 from the Actors Creator from Screen Ireland fund, and she writes it, she directs it, she is the lead actor in it, and it's incredible, because often when you are directing your own stuff, maybe the direction is slightly minimalistic, shall we say. It's not very stylistic because you're wearing so many hats. But this is really stylistic. So it's interesting that she got such a heightened style whilst actually being in front of the camera at the same time. So it's just a knockout, really. Yeah, and do you have any?
Well, I like, and I know you do too, Cantata.
Yeah,
which is very, very original. It's an actor's creator development, and it's so original, and it combines, music and great humor in it as well. So it's one of our standout films as well.
And then I think we have a brilliant one from the States called "You're Invited to Tuscan's 5th Birthday Party," and it's just about a woman. After the birthday party, just having a complete meltdown. Her house is in a complete state, and anyway, we kind of find out through a phone conversation she has about what happened, and it's a knockout performance from a woman who she wrote it and directed it.
She did,
yeah. She wrote and directed it, and she acts in it as well. So she's pretty incredible. Lee Eddy, I think, is her name, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Dublin International Comedy Film Festival began on Zoom one year. I think it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be in the Generator, and then got moved to COVID because of COVID. Did you ever kind of envisage being in such a big space, or having such kind of cool stand-up competitions, or sending people to New Jersey at that time?
Well, no, I mean, I suppose I had always wanted it to be in the Lighthouse and the Generator initially. That was kind of my idea. So when we did that last year, that was kind of, I did what I kind of started out to do. But then I suppose that we got the Screen Ireland fund, and then I suppose it just got bigger from there. And then, I never envisaged the sister festival happening. That was Mike Farrer, an Irish American who came along in 2020 as a filmmaker, and has come back every single year, and he loves it so much that he wanted to kind of copy our format of like having comedians and funny films, and so he asked us to send him our funniest 10 Irish films or whatever, and he organized it then in New Jersey with Kent Basie Theatre, and got a Irish American comedian in, and it's been growing and growing every year. So now they're moving into like the main space of Kent Basie for 2025. So yeah, I can't quite believe it. It's crazy. And this year we also have, by the way, I Went Down by Paddy Brannock. So that's going to be a big one in the Lighthouse on our opening night. And again, I never envisaged that happening. Did you, Call?
Not at all. And we also have a Q&A with Paddy Brannock after. So.
And then stand up from Bernard O'Shea as well is class. So that's, it's all kind of crazy
and daunting
and very, very scary. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be like lots of wine had, and running up to it, it'll be like making sure everything is running. There's guests, organization times, but then the last night I'd say will be a big celebration, because it's really has just grown from strength to strength. It's been such fun getting to go to there's a buzz there. Like, people are so excited. It's a festival where you could go alone and end up chatting with people, which is nice.
Yeah, and I would hope that that's the case, because some festivals I suppose can feel a little bit sometimes cold because they're so big, I suppose the good thing about having it so small, I suppose, is that like I nearly know everyone that's there, and if we don't know them, then we get to know them pretty quickly, because I kind of want everyone just to I just want a hoolie. I just want everyone to have a really good time, coming up to Christmas and just celebrating that you're all deadly, It's like just having a laugh. So yeah, it's just I hope people would find it warm and friendly and that they're all welcome.
It is brilliant. And if you're not laughing, you'll be enjoying yourselves. Tell me, where do we get tickets?
So if you go to the website, Dublin International Comedy Filmfest.com, you'll be directed to a ticket link from there, which is on the Film Freeway website. And so we have like a festival ticket for €60. We have different blocks for €5. Some blocks are for a tenner. Say, for instance, I Went Down, which also has a Q&A, has a short film with it as well. And it also has stand-up from Bernard O'Shea with support from Sophia Wren. All of that is €15. Yeah. We're trying to keep prices down.
Yeah. And if you happen to be on the Green Lewis line next week, keep an eye out for our posters, and you can scan in the QR code and bring you to the website where you can buy loads of tickets.
Did I see a lovely poster up in Smithfield as well?
Yeah, so we have the Metro panel outside the Lighthouse. Which is cool. We can't believe it as well.
It's so glam. Well, I'm so excited. It's just getting more and more fun every year. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either. I think it's like, we each have like a part mental breakdown. Part of us that is working, we help the other person to get through it.
Yeah.
So.
I think Mo deserves most of the credit.
No, I don't think so. I think great team.
Oh.
Great team.
Oh, and well done, anyway.
Including you, Gemma, as well, because you're going to be judging the live script reading competition.
Oh, I can't wait.
Which is a big highlight of the festival.
I love that because you asked me to do that. I'm like, oh no, it was the most crack. It was the most crack.
It's so fun.
It was like honestly, there was the imagination and the performances in the beat, and then sometimes the deadpan performances.
Yeah.
Any year I'll do it. So the festival runs from the 27th to the 30th. So yeah, I think what is it, a VIP pass for the whole festival seems like very good value if people love comedy and they love film.
Yeah, it'll get you into everything. So yeah, and if anyone's struggling as well, they can always just email us and go, listen, I can't afford this, we'll give you a discount or whatever, So there's no problem. Like if you can't afford to take it, we'll, I'm sure we'll be able to put your name down anyways on the guest list.
Oh, that's so kind. That is so kind.
Well, it's Christmas.
Oh, it is getting so close to Christmas. Oh my God. Well, congratulations and thanks so much for chatting with us.
Oh no, thanks a million. Really appreciate it.
Hello, Tara Norris. Thank you so much for joining us here at Dublin International Comedy Film Festival via Film Ireland. Big shout out to Film Ireland. Thank you so much to Gemma and Stephen. So thanks a million for joining us, Tara. So you are the writer, director of the brilliant indie short film called Proposing to Ciara.
Thank you very much for saying it's brilliant, and hi Mo as well. Yeah,
no, it's absolutely brilliant. So first of all, tell us how you came up with the idea for Proposing to Ciara.
Okay, well, what happened was, I've made a good few of my own short films, and generally they're comedy or comedy drama. And a couple of years ago, I was given a kind of dare, if you like, of making a comedy horror. And I wrote Wicklow Monsters, which was actually in the Comedy Film Festival 2 years ago. And in a way, it sort of stretched me, and it made me think, oh, okay, I need to try and just experiment with different types of comedy. And then I thought I would write a romantic comedy. So that's where I got the idea of, Proposing to Ciara, that I was going to write, rather than just a drama, that was a romantic comedy.
Great.
So it was roughly about 2 years ago. And I'm not sure how many times I rewrote it, but I probably rewrote it at least about 5 or 6 times over a period of 6 months. So I wrote it 2 years ago, probably October 2022. And then it was filmed in June 2023. So it's filmed last year. And one of the things was, now whenever I write, I think of something like an obstacle. So I was thinking of somebody who was proposing, and there was some kind of obstacle. Well, the thing is, like Owen is I was thinking about somebody who's got this illusion about themselves. So Owen is the dopey boyfriend, and he has no idea that Ciara, Ciara just started with him on the rebound. And so that's established right at the beginning. The conversation, the conversation in the kitchen with her flatmate, that Ciara doesn't really think that much of Owen, and Owen is totally oblivious, and he's got this idea of proposing to her. And then I had this idea of Aisling, who's the flatmate, when she realizes that Owen has asked to meet Ciara at their tree by the pond, that something's up, and that Owen is probably going to propose, and so it's not explained till right at the end why Aisling has made this phone call. We just know she makes the phone call to somebody mysterious, and says, listen, can you get to the tree by the pond? And she's basically being a very nice flatmate and friend and doing Ciara a big favor, but we don't know what that's about. And so obviously part of the comedy is when Owen gets there, he has, he sees this guy sitting by the tree, and he's got no idea who this guy is. And it turns out to be Ciara's ex who had gone to Australia for a year. So he obviously doesn't know Shane. And then, they meet each other, and he explains he's going to propose to his girlfriend, and can Shane kind of move, basically, but Shane offers to help him out by videoing and stuff. And then Ciara turns up, and she hasn't got a clue why those two who don't know each other are standing there. And then and then Shane, it starts dawning on the two of them who the other person is. And of course, Shane goes into this mad thing because he doesn't want Ciara to say yes to Owen. And he's realized while he's been in Australia that Ciara means a lot to him. And so it goes on. Okay.
It reminded me a little bit of Shakespeare's comedies. There's usually there's often like twins used in Shakespeare stuff, two guys or two women, this type of thing. But it was a little bit Midsummer Night's Dream or Twelfth Night, a little bit, it had that about it. Did that ever occur to you?
No, nobody's ever compared what I've written to Shakespeare, so thanks for that. It was more that, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she
Yeah.
said about surprising people. So because it's called Proposing to Ciara, so you think, it's just going to be a straightforward, I don't know, romantic comedy or something like that. And then, there's a couple of surprises. So obviously what happens is the audience are not expecting a love rival, and Owen is not expecting his love rival to be there. So what I was going to say was that I was a bit obsessed with the whole thing taking place on a bridge, because so originally when I wrote the script, the whole idea was they're on a bridge, they're on a romantic bridge, and on one side of the bridge, Owen would come up, and then on the other side of the bridge, Stephen would come up. But then, I saw this bridge. I was watching TV, and I saw this bridge, which was in Beer in County Offaly, and it's very beautiful. And I was thinking, oh my God, that would be so wonderful. Or I was thinking of Mount Usher down in County Wicklow. I had these like grandiose ideas about where the bridges could be, but the practicalities were that it's just too it would be too expensive. In fact, it was too expensive because, for example, there's a bridge in Botanic Gardens, which comes on the OPW, and it's beautiful. And I inquired after it, and it was like €200 an hour. And I thought, well, that's just for the bridge, never mind all the other stuff. So what happened was, in terms of production, me and the producer, Laura Huig, and then two other guys, David and Colin, who were the script supervisor and the location sound, we were walking along the canal, or various bits of the canal and rivers in Dublin, trying to find a bridge which was not too noisy and where we could film, and there wasn't too much traffic. And then in the end, we gave up the idea, and I filmed it in a local park. So, but that's one of the things about trying to find a location, that you can spend a lot of time trying to find a location. Okay. So in the end, we used a local park, and there's some bridges there. We didn't use the bridge except for there's a final scene where they're walking across the bridge. And I was very happy I didn't use I didn't use a bridge for the whole thing, because it was so problematic just for that scene, which is about 5 or 6 seconds, where they walk across the bridge, because those kids hanging out of the bridge. There was this girl who's about 9 years old, and her parents were watching while we were trying to set up to film. And like, you're trying to be polite with people, but this kid, she wanted to be in the film, and we had to say no, of course. But also, she was literally hanging off the bridge, So, so that was one of the problems that we had with filming. But otherwise, when we originally we filmed the interior scenes in my house, okay, and then the exterior scenes we had to put it back because of the weather. So we actually put shooting back for the exterior scenes 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to say about shooting is that I actually really like to have people who are, of different nationalities, if I can, and not everybody is white Irish. And I think it comes from the fact that my parents are both from Dublin, but I grew up in England. So my parents were immigrants. So one of the things, and people have commented on it to me, is, for example, Ciara is played by Anya, who's German.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then one of the love interests who plays Stephen is JP Albuquerque, who's Brazilian. And then in the crew, there was, I tried to get quite a lot of women, if I can. So the AC, so the assistant camera, was Enya, who's Swiss German. The first AD was Kate Horvath, who's a very good first AD, and she's Czech. Okay. One of the makeup artists was Reda, who's Lithuanian as well. So, and also the gaffer was so I'm just looking at all the names here. The gaffer was from Belarus. Eugene. I mean, he's called Eugene, but he's from Belarus. So a lot of the crew weren't just Irish. They were a lot of them obviously are European. And within the crowd scene, there's the people who played. So the main actors, you had 2 Irish, 1 Brazilian, and 1 German. And then in the crowd scene, you had an African American. You had, in fact, one of the crowd was doing the BTS, the British Asian, and then you had Claire, who played the flatmate, and Tom, who was who got dragged in, was the script supervisor as well. So I tried to have a mix of nationalities within the film when I was making it. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
It's very well shot. Like it's quite stylistically shot. I mean, I know you had no money shooting it and everything like that, but what you did using the frame was very interesting, and it was kind of high comedy, I would say. We can see immediately by the frame that it's comedy and it's stylized. Did you take inspiration from anywhere for that, or?
No, I mean, I think that Matthew DeBarra, who was the DOP, he's very, very conscientious. And so him and, well, first of all, we had Tom McNally, who worked with me, Matthew, in terms of actually, especially in the park, like going to the park and working out the shots. Matthew, as I said, is very conscientious. So he had this app, I think it's called Sunseeker, and it works out exactly where the sun is going to be and where the shadows are. So one of the things was we had, when we were working out the shots, with me, Matthew, the DP, and Enya, the AC, we had 6.5 hours of Zoom meetings actually working out the shots. And then also we had the storyboard that Tom had done. So there was a lot of, so it was almost zero budget, right, the film. But I think that we put a lot of work into the planning.
Yeah, it really shows. Like, it
Okay.
really shows. It's
Yeah.
really, really well executed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And that's thanks to it's thanks to Matthew, but then also we had two cameras, because one was 4K and one was 6K. Okay, I'm not a total techie, but I mean I know that we had the 4K and 6K. And then also Eugene has got a lot of experience, so he was very good in the lighting, in terms of we had the natural light of the sun, but also filling in with light with like lamps as well.
Okay.
So that was one of the things. But one of the things that I wanted to mention was the fact that the music
Yeah.
and the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So that was done by Nelson Alfaro, and he worked over a couple of weeks with it, because to me that adds to a lot of the comedy, because for example when Owen first comes down, it's all very bright and and
Yeah.
stuff. And then the bit where you suddenly see Stephen, that's very funny. Stephen is there like this, after Ciara having to deal with two idiots, but
Yeah.
she turns round and there's this, kind of gorgeous looking guy with
Yeah.
his ukulele and his sunglasses, and there's this real like schmaltzy, cheesy music,
Yeah.
which I mean, every time, even now when I see it, God knows how many times I've seen it, like probably 80 to 100 times easily. It still makes me laugh. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is to do with not just the costume, but it's also to do with just that music.
It is, but it's also the rhythm and the timing of the edit and the shot that you choose, because you start on his ukulele and then you eventually very slowly bring it up, and it's just that reveal is so funny, and then the music with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And well, as I said, that's thanks to Matthew. But also I think that it was also we just planned everything, and I think that's the thing. When you have a low budget movie, you the thing that you have, because Matthew said this to me, and I thought this anyway, is that the thing that you have is time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you spend time. You haven't got, thousands and thousands of euros to blow at it, but you spend time, planning it. And one of the things is like the guy who, sorry, it was somebody else. It was a guy called Mark who did the location sound, not David. He said to me, or he said to someone else about working on my shoots, that one of the things that he liked about working on my shoots was that they're always well organized, and they have nice food. Okay.
Very important.
Very important. So one of the things was, because we plan it, or we planned it as much as possible. I think there was one day we finished exactly on time. We finished at 6 o'clock, and the other day we finished at 6:30, which I think is not too bad.
Yeah.
Because I think it's, if people are working for you in a low budget film, I think it's a question of respect for them, that you try and plan it as much as possible, so that you're not, because I've worked on other people's stuff where, I'm still there at 11 o'clock at night, and because it's just been really badly planned or badly organized.
Yeah.
And so it means that if you're taking these people's talent and work seriously. And so by planning it as much as possible in advance, you're showing your respect. And then also as I said, the other thing is just having decent food. So the filming in the park was over 2 days, and thank God it didn't rain. But we had changed the days because we realized it was going to take longer than we thought. And I think we were quite lucky because even though, I was complaining earlier about this girl hanging off the bridge, it was only, it was a short shot. So generally people didn't bother us that much. They were kind of, vaguely interested in what was going on, but we didn't get loads of people being annoying or stuff. So I think we were lucky in that respect.
I was going to ask you, like, how did you get into filmmaking, and why? What was it about it that drew you to it, and how long have you been at it?
Oh God. Um, the thing is, when I was a kid, I used to love watching films, and I always have. And every Friday when I was a kid, me and my parents would go to the cinema. Like every single Friday, we'd go, whatever the latest film was, we would go and see a film. And when my brother's a bit younger than me, and when I was kind of old enough to babysit my brother, they would, my parents would go out and I was babysitting my brother. And so I would watch films on TV. And I remember at the time, it was one of the channels would have this was weird, because considering I was probably about 10 or 11, so I don't know what the hell was going on with my brain, but I would watch these films with subtitles. And I remember watching Russian films and
Right.
Eastern European films, and I would just sit and watch them, and I probably couldn't understand most of them, but so that's one of the things. So I've always loved filmmaking. But when I did my original degree, my original degree was in French, and I went to, I worked in France for a year as an English assistant in school. I think I didn't really have enough confidence in myself, so it wasn't until I was a bit older that I started getting confidence in myself. But I always went to see loads of films. I'm very interested in films. I used to read about films and kind of know what was going on with films. So it was only really in the late 90s, I started doing some writing courses. And then when I came to live here, which is 2002, I did some courses with Film Base. So I remember one of the first films I ever did was a whole week's course in how to make a short film with this Australian filmmaker. He was Irish, but he'd been to Australia, like a long time before. And then gradually I started doing more and more courses. And then I made 3 short films with with a friend of mine who's called Giovanna. So she was kind of like my co-producer. But I suppose there were kind of learning curves, So the first one actually got into the Boston Irish Film Festival
It's amazing.
at the time. And I went,
Oh, yes.
I don't know, I just thought, oh, I'm going to go,
Yeah,
like the Boston
that's
Irish Film
fun.
Festival. And I met Fionnuala Flanagan.
No
And
way.
and then the guy who was actually lovely, she was really nice,
Yeah.
And then the guy who did Mickey Bo and Me, I remember he was there. And then the director who did Hotel Rwanda, who I can't remember, but I sort of met various people,
Yeah.
and everybody actually was really nice and friendly. And I think I don't, the guy who ran the festival at the time just sort of took a shine to me, and I think I could have sent him, I mean, he for some reason he really, just was trying to encourage me. So that was
Yeah.
the first film festival I ever entered, and then I made 2 more short films. One, the sound was a bit of a disaster, and it's one of those things that you just have to learn. Okay, so I in fact, what I'm going to do now, I've decided even after all these years that I'm going to make it into a silent film just with subtitles, just to salvage it because the sound was
Yeah.
awful. But you never make that thing again. But while I was there, and also the other thing I did, which was really stupid, but as I said, it's a learning curve, was that there was 2 weekends following where I shot 2 separate short films.
Great.
which is not, but then you sort of, it's like, which is complete madness, you know. So I shot one short film one weekend, which was Acid Drop Granny, okay, and then the other one, Dublin Date, right, the next weekend, okay, and then you have like loads of stuff to edit. That's the thing, you know, because
Yeah, no.
so I realized that's not a good idea, like to be doing that. And something funny happened with Acid Drop Granny, because I put it on. I set up my website again a few months ago, and started a YouTube site at Tara Norris, and YouTube took down Acid Drop Granny because they've banned it. It's like, oh my God. So the thing is that so it makes a funny story anyway.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about it because it's, you know, I always thought I'll just put some of my old short films which are too old to be put in any festivals anymore.
Yeah.
And Acid Drop Granny, as you can imagine, is the story of two teenage boys who end up being kind of bullied because they're showing off, being bullied, and end up, because they don't want to lose face, buying this acid, and they take it home, and their granny ends up taking it and getting out of her head. Okay, so so it's a play on words that Acid Drop Granny the sweet
Yeah.
and Acid Drop Granny. So, so YouTube just took it down, and I wasn't even thinking, you know, about it. And so then this discussion started between me and YouTube, and they were saying I was encouraging people to take drugs. And I said, no, it was a comedy of errors of two, you know, silly teenage boys and, you know, what happens and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't accept it and made me do this course on awareness of all sorts of things, which were very, very heavy, actually,
Yeah.
because Acid Drop Granny is very light, you know. In fact, I showed it to some, you know, I did a presentation today, and I showed it to some of the students, and thought it was really, really funny, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's now on my website because it's not allowed to be on YouTube. After that, I went to Kuwait for 10 years, and that was being very sensible. But while I was in Kuwait, because I used to get a very good salary, it paid for my master's in screenwriting, which I did over 2 years, where I was, you know, when I was working full time. And then a year later, I did a year-long professional program in screenwriting at UCLA, but that was long distance. So it was Skype then. We would have these 3-hour Skypes, and then in general, we had to write 10 pages like every week. So the UCLA one was very practical about writing scripts, and the master's was a master. So there's some academic stuff. So my treatise was about Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who did Amélie and all those films, and he's one of my favorite filmmakers. And also it's a French thing as well, you know, because I like.
Well, I can see a bit of that in proposing to Ciara, actually. Now you say it is quite stylistic. I can see that inspiration there. Maybe if you weren't even aware of it, it is kind of there. It's those kind of wide angle lenses, people talking into the frame like a POV, and the quick edits at times, you know, especially when Owen comes out first when he's dancing around the place and putting his hat on and you know, kind of whips out the ring, and that's a bit like him. It's kind of similar-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I
Right.
mean, obviously there's a big difference between production values, but you know,
Yes, of course.
and so what you're doing is really interesting with no money, you know, and it just shows people what they can do if they, as you prepare. But
Yeah.
it's also interesting when you're talking about Acid Drop Granny, you mentioned, oh, it's just comedy of errors. And I was like, that's Shakespeare, comedy of errors.
Okay. All right.
Two guys again, two young boys, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I do think there's a Shakespearean influence there that you're probably not aware of. Did you ever watch much theater when you're growing up or anything like that? Or
Oh, yeah. I used to love going to the theatre.
oh, there
Yeah,
you
so
go.
I've watched a lot of, but I think, you know, I've never connected it before because I did my degree in French, but we did medieval French literature,
Ah,
and Renaissance French literature. And then the literature we covered was from the 16th century to the 20th century. And my special subject was Balzac. I mean, God knows why I chose Balzac, who wrote these, like a small novel for him was 400 pages, So I
Yeah.
ended up reading 10, thousands of pages of Balzac. So I think maybe you just pick this stuff up unconsciously.
I think you do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Shakespeare would have taken a lot from the writers around that time and before him. So a lot of them had set up these archetypes anyways of the
Yeah.
and that type of thing. Then he would just take it and change it, as they all did. They would take these ideas and just change them and tweak them and do the
Yeah.
right thing with it.
And then one of the things that some people pick it up is that the people who were the crowd who are passing comments, they
It's like a chorus.
yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah.
They're the chorus passing comments on what's happening.
Yeah.
So, and that adds to the comedy. So they were all dressed in dark grey
Yeah, I
and
saw that. Yeah, it's really interesting.
yeah. And then Shane and Owen Shane was kind of more, they were both muted colours. So Shane was in tan, like
Yeah.
tan and black, and his jacket was tan. And then Owen, his was green. So dark green, not bright green. And then Ciara was in, I can't remember what she was wearing in
Wearing a red dress.
but a red dress. So when she comes, she's in a very bright red dress. And JP, who plays Stephen, he was in a yellow shirt. And we actually had a lot of discussion about what color shirt he was going to wear, but it had to be bright.
Yeah.
So I did that. So that was a kind of color code that people would, what was funny is that one of the things that took quite a long time to find was just the ring.
Okay.
Because the ring is a cheap ring, which was €9. And I tramped around loads of shops trying to find a cheap ring which looks like a diamond. And so I did get one, and so the label is the original label. There was 50% off or something. It was some kind of bug, and I decided to keep that to show how show his character.
Yeah.
That he was a bit of a cheapo.
Mhm.
And in the editing, there wasn't quite enough time. I wanted the audience to be able to read that label, just have enough time.
Yeah.
And so when I discussed it with the editor was Owen McDonough. He had to make it just that bit longer so the audience could register it.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah.
Great.
It was kind of funny with Owen, he's a very good editor, and it's a sort of long story about how I know him, but he edited, two previous shorts of mine. And when I sent him the script, he said, "How can I resist when you've named one of the characters after me?" But of course, it's a dopiest character,
Yeah.
obviously. So I thought that was kind of nice of him,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I personally like proposing to Ciara, and I think it's well done. When it was shown at the Underground Film Festival, and there was something that I noticed, which was in a session that was shown, and someone else who's nothing to do with the film, who I know, noticed it as well, that in a lot of film festivals, there's a lot of sort of misery. So in a session where proposing was shown, there was, like cancer. Like two people had cancer, somebody died of a heart attack, somebody had a miscarriage, there was a burial, people dying everywhere.
Yeah.
And they obviously just sort of bunged in proposing to Ciara for a bit of light relief. And that's a nice thing about the Comedy Film Festival, because at least it's comic.
Yeah.
So you've got, but I think it's something I've noticed, and there's a filmmaker called oh God, his name's gone out of my head. Gavin Irvin. He's from Belfast, but he lives in London, and he's done some, really nice short comedy films. And I was discussing this with him before, and he said that it tends to be a problem he felt in Ireland and the UK, because he's had some comedy films in Southern Europe, and
Yeah.
parts of Latin America, they've really taken the films on in general festivals, you know.
Yeah.
So that's in the future, that's something I'm going to try and take. And I've had JP, who played Stephen, he translated the script for me into Brazilian Portuguese. So I'm going to subtitle them in Portuguese. And then also, you know, I speak Spanish. I was doing a Spanish conversation class, and I did how to make a presentation in Spanish about how to make a short film, talking to them about proposing to Ciara, and then showed it at the end. So my Spanish teacher volunteered to translate the script into Spanish. So I've got the subtitles in Spanish ready to go. So it's on my list of things to do, you know. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, so that's the future, hopefully, for it, you know.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, congratulations on a brilliantly made short film with zero budget.
Thank you very much. Yeah, all the budget went on the food and transport,
Yeah.
and you know, and a bit of, you know, bunging people some money, you know, as well. But it certainly didn't get a professional rate, you know. But I think it was I had a very good team with me as well. So and yeah, and I like it myself, you know. So yeah, okay,
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. And see you at the festival.
yeah, okay, all right. See you, and thank you for putting it on in the festival. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for listening. Visit filmireland.ie where you can subscribe to our newsletter, find out more about Irish cinema, and never miss another podcast.